started. I'm Kathy Syak. I recognize most of your names that you've attended a conference before, and welcome. It's my pleasure to introduce Leslie Garrison. She is a chemistry teacher at Westford Academy in Massachusetts and has been teaching for 15 years at the high school and middle school levels, and also has earned a national board certification in chemistry. Congratulations. So it's my pleasure. She's going to be talking about using EdPuzzle to drive student engagement with videos. So here we go, Leslie.
Okay, so I've been using EdPuzzle for a little while now, and one of the keys is right before we went out on COVID back in March, is I taught the other chemistry teachers how to use it too, and so that was a big part of our distance learning way back when in the spring. So hopefully you can see my screen right now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I have my personal email as well as my work email, because who knows what's going to happen when we have to go back. So our objective is just that you're going to be able to learn how to transform videos into tools to drive learning and boost student outcomes. This was by far our most successful tool when we were working with the students in the spring. I'm going to do a pretty quick overview of the EdPuzzle basics, unless the poll tells me otherwise. Talk about applications, sources of videos, because that can sometimes be the hardest part, tips and watch outs, and then we can do some breakout rooms and practice. Okay, so this is where I have the poll now. See, this is where I think I need to stop sharing to do the poll. All right, and so what I'm asking is, what's your level of understanding of EdPuzzle and how to use them? So hopefully you guys are, this will just help me with how I structure what I talk about. So I think that's about everybody, since I didn't vote. Okay, all right, so I will definitely, so share results. Do I need to share results? Anyway, okay, so there we are. So I will spend a little bit more time on how you do this and all of that. It is free, which is always a good thing. Always a good thing. So let me go back to my screen. All right. Okay, so the way EdPuzzle works is you just choose any video. It can be from YouTube or anywhere else. You're going to embed your assessment questions during it, and you get to track your student progress. So the teacher accounts are free for up to 20 EdPuzzles. My school in Westford, they have purchased the pro version, and so I have unlimited storage. There's really seamless integration with Google Classroom. Absolutely love that, and most learning management systems. So I just wanted to give you an example of one. And the link to all of this is in there. So on this one, I just did a review of Le Chatelier's principle with my students. And this is, Mr. Anderson, right? So here's just show you the beginning of what it's like.
Hi, it's Mr. Anderson, and this is Chemistry Essentials Video 66. It's on Le Chatelier's principle, also referred to as equilibrium law, and it's really...
Okay, so I felt that the graphic here was potentially misleading, and so I inserted this note here, that the graphic can be misleading, that it's not, doesn't mean that they're equal quantities. So you can do that, and I need to move this out of the way. There we go, okay.
The elegant principle that you apply to reversible reactions. And it basically says if there's ever a disturbance to equilibrium, the reaction will move to counteract that disturbance. And so let's say, for example.
Okay, so now I have a question here. So this isn't the first time they've heard about the Chatelier's, all right? So it describes the response of the system to some sort of change, okay? And then which of these best describes that? And so I'm gonna pick the wrong answer intentionally. So I click on that and submit. and it's going to say that my answer was wrong. It will point out what the right answer is. And then under here, you can see there's feedback that's provided to say why that response was not correct. So you don't have to put the feedback in, but I found that it's pretty helpful in most cases. Something else to notice here is that there's a rewatch button, and that's so that they can go back and they can listen to what was said just in that last segment again if they want to.
For example, I'm at an equilibrium state between reactants and products, and I all of a sudden get an influx of reactants, way more.
So I'm not going to go through all of it here. You can see how there's a red that would indicate that I got one of them wrong. That students appreciate knowing that as they're going through, because with the COVID in the spring, they had to get at least 65% correct, and so they were, some of them went right by that line. Anyway.
So,
Okay.
so Leslie, are the responses, feedback about wrong answers, do you put those in or are they already there?
So I put in the questions and the multiple choice answers and the feedback.
Okay.
So this is why you want to, make friends that do EdPuzzles as well, so that you can share the workload on it. You also can look at other people's, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So, so back here to EdPuzzle. Okay. So this is just a slide from EdPuzzle, and it talks about how it can be your new best friend. So the students watch this at their own pace. There are some that are just going to whip right through it, and others go more slowly. It holds them accountable because it gives them a grade. And you can see how much time each student spent on it, as well as their overall grade. And you can do this in class. There's something called live mode. And with live mode, you put that up, you put the video and the stops up, and they answer it just on their own device at their seats. I have not used that, but it sounds like it could be interesting. So this just lists the learning management systems that it integrates with. So if you don't use Google Classroom, there's others as well. This is what the home page looks like, and I know it might be a little bit difficult to see. So here's just some labels. So on my content here on the far left, it has the curriculum, which is not that great, to be honest. Westford Academy, where I teach. So I can click on that and I can see EdPuzzles from other people at my school site. And then my content, which is what it's showing here right now. It's helpful to organize them with folders, definitely. On the left, on the bottom here, it has just some places that you can search for videos from, YouTube and so on. And you can directly search EdPuzzle to see other people's EdPuzzles. And up here on the right, you have your tab for your grade book and your classes. And that is all input or transferred directly from Google Classroom with you just pushing a button. So, and then if I want to create new content, I go to my add content. And you can see you can create videos in here, which I don't recommend. You can upload a video. I found that to be very slow. And so even my personal videos, I put on EdPuzzle. I put on YouTube so that people can access it. This gives you an idea of what the grade book looks like. Obviously, I got rid of all the students here. So these are all of the EdPuzzles from a time frame that they had. We had pretty much one a week. And it has their grades. 0 means that they didn't even attempt it. And then the total time spent is just the list of all of it together. So you can see that the person who had a 96% overall, well, they invested a little bit more time in this than the person who did the more bare minimum. And then if you just click on any of the grades, you can get more detail. So in order to create an EdPuzzle, the first thing that you do is you select it, and then you're going to cut the video to focus on the key material. You can do a voiceover if you want, and then you can add questions or comments. And so my little cloud here shows where those different options are: cut, voiceover, questions. And you'll notice, like on the Bozeman EdPuzzle, I didn't have his whole intro in there because I think that just encourages students to tune out. When mine are pretty short and sweet, they're very rarely more than 10 minutes long, because I want them to actually stay and watch it and not step away, because we know they do that, right? So that is the basics. And so I was going to talk through some applications, unless there are specific questions right now about EdPuzzles themselves. Okay, so I'm going to assume that we're good to go. Okay, so you can do this with your own instructional videos. You can do like little formative assessment things at any time that you might use a video.
There's a question in chat. Can a student response include a JPEG, it says?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, no, it's not. They don't have that option. It's just, it's going to be either long answer, where they just type out their response, or multiple choice. And I highly recommend multiple choice. It grades it automatically for you. And the longer responses, there's no limit on how long they can make it, and some of my students can be rather verbose. So some of the things from a formative assessment standpoint, you do this for review. You can build depth of understanding. You actually go through guided practice with independent practice afterwards. Learn about the applications of a phenomena. There's ways to incorporate scaffolding, differentiation that I'll show you. And then I think it really works well with virtual labs as well. So with your own instruction videos, you have a couple of options here. You can import it and assign it as is, and then students just get credit when the video runs to the end. It doesn't mean that they actually watched it, but it goes from there. So this is just one of my instructional videos here. And so you'll notice how there's no dots along this, which means that there's no questions or anything. And so it just runs the video.
Welcome back. So today, for this week, we're going to be looking at limiting reaction.
Okay, and that's just me talking the whole time. So, nothing really earth-shattering there, but it does make it so that they actually need to turn the video on. And I don't know about you guys, but I had certainly issues where students didn't watch the video, and then they'd have a problem, or they'd ask a question, and I'll say, well, if you look at the middle of the video. Adding questions, though, allows you to check for understanding. And you don't necessarily have to grade it more than just like a participation kind of a grade if you want. But the checking for understanding just makes sure that they're thinking about it. And that's, as we know, so important. When I put a video up in class, I'll say, okay, I need you to look for these two things or something like that. And this is just a way to allow you to do that. Some watch outs here, and that is that students can't rewatch the EdPuzzle video once it's been submitted unless you reset it for them. So you're probably going to want to post a link to your video as is, in addition to the EdPuzzle, if you're going to use this as a way to ensure that they're watching instructional videos. So I think there's much more interesting ways to use this, and that's sort of like the reviewing of concepts. So Tyler DeWitt videos are great for that. So here's an example of a Tyler DeWitt video. Okay. This is a polyatomic ion review.
Let's learn how to write chemical formulas for compounds that have polyatomic ions.
And so you can see, it's just his video, but then I go to different points here. And so this was, I believe this was my college prep class. So at this point, I remind that all compounds have an overall neutral charge, so that it's not going to have the 2+ and the minus on it.
I have 2+ from the calcium, but I only have 1- from the nitrate. So at this stage, I can add more of either one of these or both until I get the charges to balance.
Okay, so now I ask how many nitrate ions are needed to balance the charge of the calcium ion. And, they can answer, and if they, answer correctly, since I've done an incorrect one, you can see there that it, says it was correct. And it gives you the question as well as what the right answer is. So, you know, and that's as you go through the process, and then you need to hit continue.
Since I have 2+ here, and each one of these nitrates brings me 1 minus, I'm going to add another nitrate.
And so I'm not going to keep going on this, but you know, you get the idea of if this is a way to do practice problems with them live and to have them continue to check in. I'm trying to think up on this one. Right, so, you know, on this one here at the end, how many magnesium ions do you need? Where so he's gotten partway through the problem. And then we do the magnesium ions for the rest of the way through the problem. Okay, so back to this. So, you know, any of the, Tyler DeWitt does lots and lots of these kinds of videos, so you can do that. Bozeman videos, also, you saw an example of that in the beginning as a review. But you can also do more with it, like, so you could build depth of understanding. So this is an example of an animation video that has questions on it. And so we'll go to this one. I would have so many EdPuzzles open when we're done. Okay. So this is how water dissolves salt. Okay. And so there's actually not a lot to it. And I say some of the questions will relate back to what you learned earlier in the year. It's okay to look at your notes while you go through the video, which is my way of saying, get out your notes. And then, you know, actually this is a really short one. This is only 1 minute, 20 seconds. Okay, so here's the water molecule. It's shown as having 2 green blobs attached to the blue blob. Which blobs are the hydrogen atoms? So this is not, you know, rocket science. It's just kind of, you know, keeps them on track to make sure that they're watching and that they're thinking about it. And then the animation actually shows where it's going in and attacking it. And so on here, it says what ions are in sodium chloride. And so I want them to remember, you know, what the ions are. And you can see there's, you know, the different options. And hopefully they remember it. That's important because we're going to be talking about which side of the water molecules go in there. And so this is an example almost of scaffolding, because first I make sure that they thought about which was the positive, which was the negative ion. And now I'm asking them which one is which. And I give the hint about consider the relative size. Because they did learn, this is my honors class. And so they learned about the relative size of ions, so that they would know which ones are which if they, you know, if they go through and think about it. Right, and so if they picked the wrong ones, I say why. You know, sodium ions are smaller because their electrons are contained in 2 energy levels, chloride ions has 3. So, and that even if they just guessed and had that, they can still see what the feedback would have been for the other one. Okay, and then they change the colors on us, of course, right? And they, you know, talk about the polar charges. So why is the negative charge shown on the bottom? So this is really taking them through the concepts. And I'm going to skip a little bit and get all the way out to here. And you can see where you have the ions there. And so what ion is the big blue ball on the left, right? And you can say why. So this is an example of trying to really take them in through the animation of what's happening when something dissolves. Okay. And then, you know, you saw a guided practice with Tyler DeWitt, but you can put independent practice at the end. So here's another example. Are you guys getting tired of my examples yet? Okay. So this is gases that are not at STP. And so, yep.
Gas stoichiometry. Gas is not at SDP.
And so I have a quick check. Do they remember what STP is here? Right? And so if I'm expecting that they would know it, then this can be for a grade. If it's a true formative assessment, then I wouldn't count the % correct for the grade. I would just do it more as a completion thing. And so
these problems highlight gases.
Okay, so I'm going to go towards the end.
Plug it.
Okay, and you know, this was a video that I found. If you look at this very last question, it has a hole in the middle of the little raindrop. That's because it actually is multiple questions together. So we went through practice problems with the video, and I say, now it's your turn. What are the 3 steps of the problem? Okay, and so I have some different options here, like how do they approach this? And I'm going to pick one that's probably wrong, but anyway, so the next question, it asks like the second step of solving the problem. All right, so, you know, what's going to be the moles of carbon dioxide? You need to figure that out next. And I'm going to guess wrong again, most likely. And then what's the final answer? So in this case, there we go. So, boy, I was lucky on that one. The downside of embedding all the questions one on top of each other like that is that they don't see the answer, the correct answer, until they go through all of them. So you've answered all of them and, oh, I was using the right process. But then I had the incorrect mass or moles of the gas. And you can see how I have some explanation in here, and I even show the equation, which you can do. It does have subscript and superscript, but it doesn't have like an equation editor in it or anything like that. And then there's the final answer. So, right? And it automatically submits everything at the end. So once the students reach the end, they don't need to do anything more. It automatically submits, and you can click the upload to Google Classroom for the grade. Okay. And then you can also learn about the application of a concept. So it really depends on the video that you choose, what you're going to do with it. So this was one that I did on popsicles. So I found this video through a open source textbook, and I'll talk about how to do that. So on the King of Pops, this was for my college prep students.
We have 3 levels when we make a product. The most important thing.
Okay, so I give them a little background because this is right in the middle of the video because there was more of a sales pitch.
The important thing above all else is we want it to be really good. Second thing is local. We want to get as much local fruit as we can. Our third priority is organic.
Everything is handmade, hand cut, fresh squeezed fruit. It's just
right. And so then this is CP, so reminding them that fruit contains the water, and mashing the fruit makes heterogeneous, not homogeneous. But the same principles of freezing apply. So this would be something where if it was honors, I might ask them to think about this more rather than just telling them.
Different approach.
So, yep. And so, a lot of it, I'm talking them through what's happening.
Amplify what nation.
Okay. And then, here's one called about something called freezing point depression. And so I say, what is freezing point depression? And I can put in italics here. You might need to check back on your notes. And they pick an answer, and hit submit. It tells them whether they got it right or not.
I'll let the owners take it from here.
Right? So it's kind of a fun video that's a little more entertaining than like a Tyler DeWitt video, for example, where you're going through something. So there, if you can find the video, if you can find a video for it or make a video, you can make it into an EdPuzzle. So some just suggestions around scaffolding and differentiation. You can, if you think that they're going to struggle with it a little bit, then use a series of questions. So I showed how you could do multiple questions together as a set, but the limitation is they can't see the corrections until the complete series is answered. And this is just, I believe, that same video, same EdPuzzle. You can do individual questions that are one after the other during a lull in the video, and then they get the feedback on each one as they're going through. And then differentiation, fairly straightforward. If you make one EdPuzzle, you can duplicate and make another one where you just adjust a few things, adjust some of the questions, and then through Google Classroom, you can assign them to different people. And hopefully you all know how to do that. I believe there's a way to assign it to different people through EdPuzzle, but I find it easier to use the Google Classroom process. Yep, okay. So virtual lab videos. All right, I'm going to exit here for a second, just because it's so weird that I don't know if you guys have done this, but I complain to my students about talking to the box, talking to the little camera on there. And so I'm just going to stop sharing for a second and let me know. Yep, you can always rewatch. Okay, can students watch the videos at a faster speed? No, they cannot speed them up. Yeah, they can't speed them up. And there's settings on there that where you can put closed captioning in or not. You can put in a setting to allow them to skip parts of it. I don't recommend that, but you can do that. See, I think those are all the questions that I see right now. Okay. All right, so I can see everybody's face for a minute. Yay! All right, okay. All right, let's go back to this. And nope, sorry, I need to screen share again. Share screen, puzzle, share, there we go. Okay, so virtual lab videos. So if you can find a video that shows the key parts of a lab, even if like the description is not what you want at all, you can just record your voice in place of the existing audio, and I'll show you an example of that. And then you can add questions in there to confirm students' understanding as you're going along. That's another example of when I don't actually record those grades. And then I have a separate Google Doc where they answer the analysis questions. So first, I think this is going to be annoying. I really just like, well, this goes over that, and I forgot about this. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna, yeah. All right. We'll do the EdPuzzle first. Okay. So this is the reactions of metals with acid, and I didn't like the description of it at all. This is like a segment of a bigger video, and
Observation. So here we have 6 different metals in their test tubes, labeled with their element symbols. And the student is adding hydrochloric acid to each of the test tubes. As you can see, he's not necessarily worrying about the quantities very much of the specific acids, and the quantities of the metals vary as well. This would be a qualitative lab where we'd be taking a look at what looks to be different between them. Now, so far, only the Mg, which is magnesium, is showing a vigorous reaction. And their zinc now is showing a very obvious reaction.
okay, so I check in with them to make sure that they remember what is it about the magnesium that indicates the reaction. And I'll get a lot of magnesium dissolving, which of course is not correct, right? Because dissolving, I'll see what it says, right? Although the magnesium seems to dissolve, it's actually reacting to form magnesium chloride, which is soluble in water. So it's a good opportunity to make sure that I don't get that answer
The
later.
observation of the gas bubbles here indicates the production of hydrogenol on the far right.
Yeah, and so
in each of the 6 test tubes on your day 10 or 10.
right. So here, in this video, they brought each one forward so that they could, take a look at them in detail and actually write down observations. And my, very last question is a reminder to record observations that are detailed enough to indicate the relative reactivity. And I did a quick check-in which metal showed the highest reactivity, which was calcium, I believe, right? And so, yep, it's because calcium produced the most bubbling. So at least, therefore, they're going to be on the right track when they're asked to do their activity series. So if I go back to here, and I'm going to have to exit out of this because it doesn't like my, right? So here's my analysis document. And so this is just in a Google Doc, and they work in filling it in. And so the objective, what's the trend in the reactivity? Procedure, watch the video, right? And based on your observations, rank the reactivity. Okay, so here we go, right? 3 more chat. Can I see the chat too? It doesn't like to show me the chat when I'm sharing my screen. It's very annoying. So you kind of have to jump in.
Can students watch the videos faster? No? Okay,
Nope. They can't speed it up.
okay.
Yeah, I don't let them do that.
Okay.
So yeah, here's the observations, and then here's their analysis questions. And which of the 5 types of reactions occurred? Write a balanced chemical equation, and then their conclusion. What's the trend? And I asked them to create an activity series of the 6 metals and hydrogen as your generalization. We did the claim, evidence, and reasoning model for all of our labs. So this.
So do you, they return this to you as soon as you're done with it?
Yeah.
Like in class? Is this, you can do this in class or not? You do this asynchronously though, correct?
Yes, it's asynchronous.
Okay, okay.
Yep. So I actually created this when I was really sick, and they needed to do an activity series lab, and I couldn't be there with them. And since then, I've actually had them just do activity series with water. I do a mystery metal lab where they have, they have the solutions and the metals, but they don't know what is what. And so they create the activity series from it. Otherwise, they're just going to look at what it's supposed to be and go from there.
Yeah. Are you going to address how to replace the video or the audio on a YouTube, or how to add to it?
I can totally do that. Yes.
Okay.
All right. So let me see. Okay. So let's go ahead and go into EdPuzzle. Right. And so this is rewatch video is for me. Okay. And so I am going to go back to my content. And so I am logged in here right now. Right. And so this is trending in science. So there's all kinds of, different things here that people are doing, trending in Massachusetts and all that. And then I can go onto Westford Academy, and you're probably just going to see my videos. Yeah. So, and then I can go down to my content, and I have my copies one. So let's see. You know what? I don't want to mess up one of the ones that I have already in there. So I'm just gonna make a new one here. So YouTube, let's see, what's something we're gonna do early on. So I want something about atoms, protons, neutrons, right? Something along those lines. Okay, and so here's one. And I'm just gonna say, let's use it. It may be lousy, as we'll find as we go there. And so I've now imported it in there. I can copy to make a second copy of it, or I can edit it. And so you see on the bottom right here. So I'm going to say, I want to edit this, right? And so the cut is where I'm going to change the length of it. So let's see here. I watch the beginning. Hope this has sound. Maybe it doesn't. Here we go.
Hey, Sam. How's the drawing coming?
I really like drawing fruit, but these kiwi seeds are tough.
Right, so let's say, I'm like, I'm not so sure about that part. I go over to here.
But only if we...
And I think this part's better. So to cut it, I just go down here and take my little hand thing and move it over to a spot where I want it to start. I'm like, all right, I want to start right before atoms. Okay. And now that's where it's going to start. And I can change the end the same way. I can just go down to here.
Sorry, Sam. Still think atoms don't count?
They count all right. Atoms are a work of art.
Right. And so I'm like, I don't know how much I like the end of that.
Count.
So
It's a compound.
right. I'm just going to stop it at the summary. So that's how you cut the two ends. Now, if I wanted to actually record my voice under this, I click on voiceover.
Okay.
And so,
And the articles that make up all matter.
right. And so so far I'm like, hey, this is okay. I'll just keep
Those
going.
seeds are matter. Look,
But let's say it's right here where I want to have my voiceover. So I can click on start recording. And so Well, here you could see the electrons moving around, but it could be misleading because they don't actually follow a path. And I can stop recording there, right? And if you don't like it, then you trash it. So, but it shows here in yellow the part that where my voice went over top of it. And I can say, all right, I'm comfortable with that, and I want to add some questions. So I look back on here, I'm just dragging to different parts of the video. That's all right.
Neutrons have none. They're neutral.
Okay, so I might want to, if this is a really basic thing, I could say, all right, I want to do a multiple choice question here. And I could say, how are neutrons different than protons? And on this little down arrow thing here, you can make it open-ended or just a note if you want. I'm going to stick with multiple choice. And I'm going to say that I could say their charges are different. And I could say their masses are different. Right, and then the check means that this is the right answer, and the X means that that's the wrong answer.
Okay.
Okay, so their charges are different is correct, but their masses being different is not correct. So then I click on, and if I want to have more choices, I can add another answer choice right here. Like they're, I don't know. Okay, so they are located in different areas, okay, and have the two. You can have more than one that are right, okay, but you'd want to say in the question, select all that apply to be fair to your students. Or don't be fair, it's up to you. Okay, so you say save, right? And it saves that question. It shows you the question one more time. And you were like, oh, I forgot, I wanted to add feedback. So the little pencil button is where you edit. So I go back in here and I say, all right, their masses are different. I want to add feedback to that. So I click on this feedback button right here. And I would, I could say, actually, they are both about 1 AMU or something like that. And then I could go down to save. And now it shows me the question with that feedback in there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, and once that's done, I click continue. Okay, and it does make you hit continue again. So
got it. E for proton equals positive. Adam?
Okay.
Sort of like how the...
All right, so maybe I want to add another question here, and you just pick the questions wherever you want to put them. I mean, on the left, it kind of keeps a little tally for you of what you've done to it. And when it's complete, you're going to say finish. Okay. And so there's one thing, though, that I do like to do. And I was like, oh, I forgot about that. So I can go back, I can edit, and I want to change this. I don't like study jams atoms. So that's the title right up here. So I just click on this, and I could say, basics of atoms, to call it something else. And then save title. There's actually another reason to do that too. If you don't want them to really easily find your video, to be able to watch it side by side with yours, and I'll talk about that a little more in a minute, it's a good idea to change the name. So I was like, okay, now I'm finished. It does save everything automatically as you're going through. Sometimes it'll freeze on me, and if you just go out and go back into it, it'll, it saved everything as you're going along. So then I can.
Somebody asked, can you edit questions later?
Yes. So I said I was finished. So I want to go back in right here under edit. And I'm going to click up to questions because I want to edit the questions. I'm just going to, hit on that particular question right there. And here it is. And I just do my little pencil button for edit. If I want to get rid of it, I use the trash can. And that's important if you're working with other people, other people's videos too. So.
Jerusha says once you have posted it, you can't really correct it.
That's true. Yeah, that's one of my watch outs. Once it's posted, you can't change it. So
Okay.
you want to proofread it pretty carefully. Right.
Can you assign it through Google Classroom?
Yep. So I would click on assign. My classes here, this, I just had my, chemistry honors F block, A block, CP, B block. So I could just click on, let's say I want to do both my CP Chem things here. So I click on that. And then you're going to want to have it post at a time that is not right now. Because if it'll appear automatically in Google Classroom instantly. So I'm like, all right, I want to post this, say, tomorrow at noon, and save that. And I can have the due date in there, of that. And again, we're always cautioned not to have things due at midnight because it will, it can ping the students. And so in here, you see it says prevent skipping, and that's on. So for those of you that, want to let your students just jump through it, you can allow them to skip. I always have that on. Turn on closed captioning. I don't recommend turning that on. And then it is kind of covering that up, but let's see. Do you see that? Anyway, there we go. Okay, post on Google Classroom. If I just click this as on, then as soon as I hit this box assign, it's going to post it in Google Classroom. And the thing is that because I have a start date of tomorrow, then that allows me to go into Google Classroom and edit some things like the point value. It always has to be 100 points. I will make it like 5 points or something like that. And it'll do it as on a percentage basis. And you can do like the category and things like that in there to change that. That's also helpful, I've found. So that's kind of the process. And I already showed you an example of what the gradebook kind of looked like. So that we have that. So just some ideas for lab videos in general. I have an example actually on this one. You can build background skills for an inquiry lab. So that's one of the challenges that I found with a lot of the inquiry labs is that the students don't always have enough background knowledge to be able to generate a procedure on their own. And so this here is just a little reminder of how phenolphthalein works so that when they were doing the unknown solutions lab, they would have that quick refresher on it. And so there's an example here with this one as well. And I just have 3 questions in it. And if they really watch this carefully, they get a lot out of it. And, so like my highest students will really take this information and run with it. And then some of the lower students will just do the basics of it. And you see the whole length of
Today
this.
we will present a simple demonstration.
The whole length of this is only 1 minute, 18 seconds. It's really short, but it conveys what phenolphthalein does, what happens when you add sodium hydroxide and all of that. So just giving them sometimes, some hints that you might do if you were doing that in person for them can go a long way. I make that as a homework assignment before that lab. And, do my hint, it's really helpful. So you can do pre-lab assignments in general to make sure that they've reviewed the procedure. So you could have a video that shows some of the basics of what's going to happen with a couple questions in. They have to watch it in order to get through. Well, they don't have to watch it. They have to have their computer watch it and answer the questions before they can do that. You can also create multiple data sets for the same lab by either adjusting your voiceover or providing the data separately. And since I think we're going to be doing some significant distance learning, it's just another way to get at that. So sources for videos. The hardest part is finding a good video. Once you get good at this, it's finding the right video that is the challenging part. You can search EdPuzzles that others have made, and you can also look at suggestions. So if I go back to this, now I'm logged in right now. Okay, you have to be logged in. And it says, 49, okay. So if I scroll down from this, here's 11 other versions of this particular video. Jeff Bucaneri, he works at my school, right? So his is actually identical, but he copied it. And then if you scroll down, it'll also give you some other ideas for videos that are similar too. But you do need to be logged in into an account to be able to see that. So that's what I mean by scrolling down on a video to get ideas of similar things. Okay, and they have the standard set there as well. I highly recommend Tyler DeWitt if you want to do guided practice. Bozeman Science, I think, is really good for a little more depth. Even the TED Ed videos can be pretty good. I have an example of one here that is, I think it's with the cookies, the cookie TED Eds. If you haven't looked at TED Eds before, they are awesome. So here's one where I didn't change the title, The Chemistry of Cookies video by Stephanie Warren. And so, it goes in and you
Deceive you. Bakers are mad scientists. So
you might have been able to tell with how that started that I cut off part of the beginning. So
slide the pan into the oven. You're setting off a series of chemical reactions that transform one substance, dough, into another, cookies.
Right, and so the process of cookie dough becoming cookies is a physical change, chemical change. So, this can be a homework assignment where they're watching the video and going through it again, or you could do this as a live, one of the live ones that you can do in class. Another thing to look at is the video tab in Google. And so if you go, to Google, and my dogs are trying to help me here, sorry, and you search, okay, I'm gonna say stoichiometry. Okay, so I searched stoichiometry right here under videos. This is actually gonna give you a different set of videos than if you search, Maggie, that if you search stoichiometry in YouTube. And so sometimes there's things that are a little bit different here that you may find are interesting. The other things is embedded videos and open source textbooks. So my favorite open source textbook is the Chem LibreText. So if I go back here, and I'm going to hopefully remember how to do it, stoichiometry, Chem LibreText.org, I think is what it was. Anyway, there we go. So now it is giving me videos that are embedded in that textbook. So, stoichiometry, solution stoichiometry, reaction. So all of these videos are embedded in various textbooks there, and they just tend to be different, a little different take on things. And so that is another source of searching when you want to mix it up a little bit and not have it always be Bozeman or the others. Okay.
Leslie, when you said you couldn't get 20 free EdPuzzles for, if you don't want to pay for a subscription, can you do that as one person? And what does that mean?
The thing about the 20 EdPuzzles?
Yes.
Okay, so, I have actually never had a limit on mine, and maybe and I've worked in more than one district using it. So maybe
Okay.
they've always had pro, but what it is supposed to mean is it's supposed to mean that you can only have 20 EdPuzzles saved in your library.
I see. Okay.
That's what it's supposed to mean.
Okay.
But like I said, I've never actually run into that, so I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
So just some tips and watch outs. What some students will do is they'll find the video source that you used on YouTube and they'll run it right next to the EdPuzzle. Now, that's good if they, if they don't have their earbuds or something like that, they'll put on closed captioning on the one that they're running next to the EdPuzzle. But you definitely want to avoid including questions that are answered in the next few seconds of the video, because that even though you would think this is probably harder and more work for them to do it this way, some students are going to do anything to avoid having to think. So that's just a watch out on that. I generally don't include closed captioning because it can block some of the content. Another issue, if someone deletes their video, and it was something that I pulled from YouTube, then the EdPuzzle no longer works. It will actually still have your questions in it, so you can look back at that, but the EdPuzzle is no longer functioning. And it's, so that's why things like using, Bozeman and Tyler DeWitt and that sort of thing are good, because they're ones that are not likely to come down. So if you're using Google Classroom with this, so if you add a class, and this is EdPuzzle that you're seeing down here below. So if you want to pull it directly from Google Classroom, you just click on Import Students to update the list. So what happens to me is I'll set this up at the beginning of the year, and then someone will, go to a different section, or they'll go down, they'll drop down to CP or go up to honors, or someone new comes and then they're like, I can't get into the EdPuzzle. Well, all you have to do is in your class, go to students and then just import students again, and it'll automatically update everything for them. So that is just one of those little, again, just tips that are helpful to know. And I actually already showed you how to post assignments from EdPuzzle. This is just a reminder. You want to select a start date and time that's in the future. And it'll be a scheduled assignment in Google Classroom, if you're familiar with how that works. And so it appears in your Google Classroom right when you click assign. So, if it's at 10 o'clock at night, you put this on and you don't have a start date and time that's later, it'll instantly post on everybody's Google Classroom. And I like to control that. You can also change the point value. The default is 100 points. I'll typically make these lower in points, and then whatever it'll like. So let's say I say it's worth 5 points, and they got 10 out of 15 right. It will say in Google Classroom, oh, you had 3.2 out of 5 or whatever, and then I can just copy it into our grade management software quickly without doing a lot of calculations in my head or anything like that. You can also change the assignment title. The topic is something that I will always change because it does an empty topic, and I organize everything by topics in Google Classroom. Okay, so how to share EdPuzzles with colleagues. So if you're in one school, it's really easy. You just click on your school name and you can see all the other teachers. The problem comes is when you have colleagues in different schools and you want to share it with them. The way that I got all of those links that I put embedded in this document is I assigned my video, but I selected the public links tab instead and said send the link. Okay. And once you have one EdPuzzle, you can click on the name to see all of them. So if we go back here, So here's one of my EdPuzzles. If you click on my name, then you would see everything that I had, okay? And it keeps going and going and going because I have quite a few. And then, refreshes and all of that. So, if you get just one EdPuzzle of a person's, then you can see everything that they've done. And if you don't want yours to be public like this, then there is a way to make them private. And see if I can remember how to do that. Yep. So I just clicked on, go back here. So I just clicked on this first one, the basics of atoms, that is not very good anyway. So down here, there's assign, edit, duplicate, delete, and then public. I'm going to click on this arrow and make this one private because it's, embarrassingly bad. And, and then it automatically saves everything right away. So there's that. Okay, so you want to get your colleagues to share one with you, and then you can see theirs and they can see yours, assuming that you're willing to do that. Okay, wow, I've talked for a long time. Amazing. So what I was suggesting that we do at this point is just do some breakout rooms. If you have never signed up for EdPuzzle before, try signing up. It's pretty straightforward. You can sign up through Google if you want, or you can, create your own password and all of that. I do ask if you add a link to one of your EdPuzzles in this document, that would be super nice to everybody. So I just have here the topic, what type of EdPuzzle it is, my name, and then the link. And remember, the way that you get the link is by going in and doing the sharing. Am I still sharing my screen? It doesn't look like I am. Am I still sharing my screen?
Yes, you are.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I had to go check on something.
Okay.
Oh, losing my mind. Would you like, how would you like the breakout rooms? Would you like, we have 12 people, and what
Yeah,
would you like?
I would suggest 3 breakout rooms then.
3 breakout rooms, okay. So I will create 3 rooms, and we will automatically put people in rooms. So I'll create the rooms. All right, and so I believe I'm going to open the rooms. Okay, and you have been invited to attend, to go to a room at this point in time. There are 3 or 4 people per room. So you need to check in and join. Do you have something, particular question or a prompt you would like people to discuss? Let's see. Alrighty.
Yeah, so Kathy, you're muted.
Elizabeth, I love that periodic table. When did you buy that?
Well, actually, I think it was August of last year because I was going to
Oh, wow.
put it up at school. It came home with me.
I got this this pencil box at,
Oh, cool.
at TJ Maxx, and so it's kind of cool. Not up to date, but it's cool. Anyway, our session is basically over, and we wait for everybody to return. But I want to thank Leslie very much for sharing. This is a whole new thing. I'm looking for ways to think about videos, and you've given me some ideas, which I'm going to try. And there's so many options out there that and people, all different people are experts in different things. So we'll give you a call, Leslie, and if anybody needs help, I will call you. If you need help, get in touch with Leslie.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, just, my personal email and my work email are both there. And
Yes.
free. So,
All right. So thank you so much. And we're going to.
okay, thanks.